Hi, my name is Nora Moriarty. I'm on the curatorial staff here at the Putnam Museum. Welcome to Play the Story of Toys. This is a temporary exhibit we had from the holiday season and is going to be here through the summer to look at the role that toys and games have in our lives. So one thing we know about the role of toys and games in human culture is that it is universal. We see evidence of toys and games throughout just about every society that we have evidence of, no matter the time period, no matter how developed the society. One thing that we've found is that toys often represent future roles that children will be taking on, and these often conform to gender roles. So little girls may play with toys that represent tasks that they will be learning in their future life. The same goes for little boys. Here in this display, we have some Native American Mississippian culture pottery, which is miniaturized versions of the pottery that a little girl's mother or aunt may make for the family. The style would match the type of style that her mother is making. Now, the mother may have made this pottery for her daughter as a gift, or perhaps the little girl would have learned how to make pottery next to her mother while making these little toys. It's a great low-pressure way for a child to learn these skills that she'll need when she's an adult. Also, we found that girls' toys in most cultures tend to lend more to the domestic tasks that they'll need. They often have to do with nurturing, feeding, and food gathering. Little boys, on the other hand, often play with toys that represent more aggressive or adventurous life tasks, such as hunting. Sometimes we find grave goods in children's burials, such as miniaturized weapons or miniaturized tools. Even things like this wooden toy boat from the Philippines represents tasks and skills the boy will need to know later in life, such as seafaring or navigation. These themes are true for all cultures all over the world, and we start seeing grave goods in children's burials representing toys thousands of years ago. In fact, when I was working in an archaeological dig in Greece, we discovered an Iron Age burial of a child where a small ceramic cup with a slotted rim was discovered. It's actually a 4,000-year-old sippy cup. So these sorts of things that children would have used every single day, would have treasured, are often found in the burials, and that's how archaeologists figure out what may or may not have been toys. Marbles are another ancient toy that have been around since human civilization. We find evidence of hand-carved stone spheres representing marbles since around 2500 BCE. We know that they were played in lots of old world civilizations. In fact, they're featured in some Roman literature and stone reliefs. It's a game that's not only played by children, but also into adulthood as well. Now, something I find kind of funny is that when we have a display out here with marbles, when children come in with their parents or grandparents, the kids get excited to see marbles, they recognize them. But they don't actually even realize that there's a game with rules for how you play. The grandparents and parents try to explain it to them, and the children are always just a little confused by it. They've never heard it before, it's not part of their culture. What they seem to be interested in is actually collecting marbles. When I used to work in the gift shop, we had a giant display of colorful marbles, all shapes and sizes and designs, and the kids would get so excited to find their favorites or get one of each, and it's almost like they're collecting Pokemon. But it's such an ancient, old game that we've played for generations upon generations, and it's really cool to see grandparents and parents passing down that knowledge to modern children. Now, marbles is a game that's traditionally played outside. And one thing we've done here in the display is we've used a hula hoop to represent the circle that marbles will be played inside. We're working with what we've got. Now, hula hoops are pretty interesting because unlike marbles, that's actually considered a pretty short-term fad type of toy. It's something played outside. It gives children exercise. Outdoor play is incredibly important for kids because it allows them to practice skills in an entirely different environment than they experience in home. They also get sunlight and fresh air as well. We find that children that play outside actively are actually on average healthier than children who typically play inside. Now, the hula hoop was created in the 1950s by a company called Wham-O, and it was a copy of an Australian idea. So in Australia before that, they had hula hoops made out of bamboo, but Wham-O recognized the marketability of this and created the mass market plasticized version of the hula hoop. And in the 1950s, they sold about 25 million in about 4 months. Since then, hula hoops have lost a little bit of their popularity, but they're still occasionally marketed as a good exercise tool, and it's even sometimes used for weight loss methods. Now let's move on to some of the more infamous or dangerous toys that we know of. So, like me, you may have had an easy bake oven when you were younger. It was tons of fun and great role playing, and it was so cool that you could produce your own treats to have for snacks. The Easy Bake Oven was created in 1963 by Kenner, and it was actually originally marketed to both boys and girls. It was intended to be a gender-neutral toy. But very quickly they learned that marketing was going to be a lot more effective if they targeted it to a female audience. Now, the Easy Bake Oven is a lot of fun and didn't cook things at the traditional oven temperatures, but it was still hot enough to burn. Now, the little slot that you would pull the cookies or cakes out of is just large enough for tiny fingers to get in there and try and fish out that one stray cookie. We found out that Easy Bake Ovens are responsible for at least 77 burns and one partially amputated finger. In fact, in 2007, there was a recent recall of a certain type of Easy Bake Oven. It's gone through lots of remodels throughout the years to try and make it safer for children, but it seems to still be a bit of a problem. Now, one of the most infamous dangerous toys of all time is the Jarts. Now, this was conceived as a product for children that was meant to be an outdoor version of the darts game. They featured large, weighted steel pointy tip projectiles that children were meant to throw across their lawn and into a small circle set in their yard. Now, a slew of immediate injuries and accidents caused the company to try to remarket it to adults only, and they even had to slap a warning label on the box about the potential fatal injuries that could happen. However, in 1988, the Consumer Product Safety Commission did a study and found that Jarts were responsible for over 6,000 emergency room visits and several deaths. They issued a ban on the toy in 1988, but many people held on to their Jarts. They kept them around their house. In fact, about 10 years after that, in 1997, a small boy was playing with Jarts and ended up with one piercing his skull. After this happened, the Consumer Product Safety Commission decided to take the unprecedented action of reissuing the ban. They even put out a statement saying that parents should destroy the lawn darts immediately. This had never happened before, and luckily they're still banned today. But let's move on to a happier subject. Creative toys that allow children to express their artistic abilities are a wonderful way for a child to build confidence and social skills. Being able to create something in a low-pressure setting, especially with material that can be used again and again, is vital to helping a child become more confident in themselves and their abilities to create. One of the most popular creative toys of all time was actually discovered by accident. In the 1950s, Joe McVicker was trying to create a new type of putty that would clean wallpaper without leaving stains. Now, he created the putty, but unfortunately, it didn't work out for him. The marketing didn't work, and it just didn't sell. In his frustration, he lent the putty to his sister-in-law, who was a teacher. She brought it to her classroom and found that the students loved it. It was a cheap substitute for modeling clay and was more pliable, so the children never got tired of playing with it. They could create scenes and figures, build them up, and then break them back down again. Now we know Play-Doh as one of the most popular creative toys of all time. I've played with it, I'm sure you've played with it as well, and it continues to sell today. Another one of the incredibly famous toys that we have on display here was also discovered by accident. In 1943, Richard James, an engineer, was hired by the Navy to create a system that would stabilize ships in choppy waters. Unfortunately, he did not succeed in his task. He tried a spring system that was not effective. As he was working on this project, he grew frustrated, and legend has it that in his frustration, he knocked one of the springs off of his desk and then was shocked to watch it walk across the floor and down the hallway. And thus, the Slinky was born. By 1945, he and his wife realized what they had. They had an amazing and fascinating toy that children and adults would love. They wanted it to be manufactured and ready to sell for the Christmas season, but they needed help. So on a shoestring budget of a $500 loan, they manufactured the first few hundred Slinkies. And they sold out within minutes. To this day, millions upon millions of Slinkies have been sold worldwide and is still one of the most recognizable toys of all time, and all due to an engineering accident. We actually have some local toy manufacturers here at the Quad Cities. In 1920, Fred Lundell founded the Moline Press Steel Company in East Moline. He was making steel parts for automobiles, different vehicles, industrial equipment, and he ended up creating toys just for his son, Buddy. He wanted toys for Buddy that were durable, would last a long time, and were of high quality. The neighborhood kids started to notice the cool toys that Buddy had, and so Fred realized that he had another market on his hands. So he started creating Buddy L toys for kids in the neighborhood. Nowadays, Buddy L Toys is known internationally for high-quality, durable toys. Another local toy manufacturer that we have is the Strombeck-Becker Company. It's now known as Strombecker. So they produce wooden toys, and this came out of the Depression era. The company was founded in 1919 and comes from Moline. And during the Depression, they started making wooden toy kits. You could build trains, you could build planes with these kits, and it was a lower cost kind of toy since so many people were under duress during the Depression. Later, they started making dollhouse furniture as well. I want to thank you for joining me today in our exhibit, Play the Story of Toys. This is an amazing exhibit that we're so excited to have once again through the end of the summer. If you come to the Quad City region, I hope that you come in to check it out. Most of the toys in this exhibit come from our collection, but actually a large part of them also come from local collectors as well as volunteers and employees at the Putnam Museum. Our collection is 150 years old, and toys are a part of that. But we found that appealing to collectors and volunteers really helped fill out the collection. And it also showed us what people are passionate about when it comes to toys. This display behind me was created by the Putnam Guild, a community of volunteers who have helped the museum for decades. We're so happy to have their toys and everyone else's toys on display here at the Putnam, and I hope we're able to see it.